Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into two forces that, whether you realize it or not, shape every single interaction you have: communication and culture. And we're going to see why they're so deeply connected that it's pretty much impossible to understand one without the other. Okay, so let's jump right in with this powerful idea from Dale Carnegie. It's just the perfect way to kick things off, right? Because it reminds us that literally everything we do is a form of communication, and the world around us is constantly interpreting it. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the basics, what communication actually is. Then we'll look at how we've tried to model it. After that, we'll dig into the hidden fabric of culture, see how it's linked to communication. And finally, watch it all come to life with some really cool examples. All right, first up, what is communication, really? I mean, it sounds simple, right? But when you start to peel it back, it's this incredibly deep and multifaceted process. When you get right down to it, communication isn't just about shooting information back and forth. The Latin root of the word tells you everything you need to know. The goal is to make common. It's all about building a bridge, creating a shared understanding between people. And here's the thing, this process is never, ever static. Think of it like a flowing river, not some frozen pond. It's constantly moving, and you can't really pinpoint where it begins or ends. It's also interactive, which means it's a kind of dance, a constant give and take where everyone's actions are shaping the conversation. You can think of these 8 parts as the engine that makes communication run, and they're all working at the same time. You've got the source, who encodes a thought into a message, and the receiver who decodes it. And then you've got the channel. That's the path it takes. And the channel itself, wow, that's fascinating, because it's so shaped by culture, isn't it? A message sent through words feels totally different from one sent through touch, or even through silence. Okay, so once we have all these moving parts, what's the next logical step? Well, people have tried for ages to create a kind of blueprint for it. Scholars have been trying to build models to map out exactly how this whole complex process works. So the first crack at this, what we call the linear models, they saw communication as super simple, like a one-way street. It was basically like mailing a package. I send it, you get it, done. But of course, our understanding grew, and we moved to the interactive model, which gets that communication is much more like a real conversation, a two-way street where we create meaning together. And Schramm's model here just illustrates this perfectly. Look at that circular flow. What it's showing us is that there's no clear start or finish line. We're not just a sender or a receiver. We're both, all the time, stuck in this continuous loop of making and interpreting meaning with each other. But here's the thing, even a great model like that is missing a massive piece of the puzzle. It's the invisible background, the entire environment where all this is happening. And that is the realm of culture. I absolutely love this definition from the anthropologist Clifford Geertz. He called culture the fabric of meanings. It's like this invisible web that we've all collectively spun that gives us our context, helps us make sense of everything, and, guides what we do. A really great way to picture this is to think of culture like an onion. At the very center, the inner core, that's where you find our deepest beliefs, our history, our identity. That core then shapes the next layer out, our visible rituals, our customs, how we communicate. And all of that is wrapped up in the outer layer, the big institutions like our government or economy that reflect those deep down beliefs. Okay, so here's where it all comes together. This is the crucial point. Once you get your head around communication and you understand these layers of culture, you realize they are just completely, utterly intertwined. I mean, they're really just two sides of the exact same coin. Think about it. We learn our culture, what's polite, what's funny, what's important, through communication. But at the exact same time, it's our cultural rules that tell us how to communicate. You just can't have one without the other. Walter Lippmann put it so perfectly when he said, culture is the climate. It's just the atmosphere we live in, the air we breathe. We don't really think about it most of the time, but it affects the temperature and the conditions of every single interaction we ever have. All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. Let's look at some actual examples and see how this powerful, invisible link plays out in day-to-day life. This is such a classic example of cultural rules just clashing. The Chinese technician is trying to communicate respect and modesty by hesitating, what's often called giving face. But the American manager, who's working from a cultural playbook that values directness and confidence, sees that same hesitation and thinks it's a lack of skill. You have the exact same action, but it's interpreted in 2 totally different ways. Or how about friendship? In a lot of East Asian cultures, the goal is what's called a fountain of kindness. This feeling that you're always a little bit indebted to each other and you repay favors over a lifetime. Now, think about how that contrasts with the common Western practice of, say, splitting a dinner bill right down the middle to keep everything perfectly equal and preserve your independence. And this one really drives home how a communication style that's totally normal in one place can be completely weird somewhere else. Bargaining loudly in a Hong Kong market isn't just okay, it's the expected way to do business. But try that same loud, intense approach in a department store in Tokyo or London, and you're probably going to get a very different reaction. And we got to remember, communication isn't just about words, right? Not by a long shot. What we wear can send an incredibly profound message. When a Norwegian puts on their traditional bunad for their national holiday, they are screaming volumes about their history, their identity, and their pride, all without saying a single word. So, at the end of the day, here's the big takeaway. Every single one of us, we all view the world through our own set of cultural glasses. Most of the time, we don't even know we have them on. But just understanding that they exist, that's the first, most critical step to becoming a better, more empathetic communicator in this crazy diverse world. So the real question is, when was the last time you tried to take them off and see from someone else's perspective?